Scott Pilgrim vs. the World first released back in 2010 on the digital stores of both the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. It was developed by Ubisoft and based on the graphic novels from Bryan Lee O'Malley, and the release coincided with the movie also based on the same source material. It developed a cult following before being delisted in 2014 due to the license expiring. Now, over 10 years after that initial release, it's back in complete form, including all DLC from back in the day, and is about to release on the Nintendo Switch. It was once a V-Gon, but should it now be gone?
V-Gon.
I'm Glen Bolger, thank you to Ubisoft for the review code, and now, let's find out. Story-wise then, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World the game follows its source material. Scott has fallen in love with Ramona Flowers and is told that in order to date her, he must first take on and defeat each of her ex-partners, who have formed the League of Evil Exes. There's very little by way of actual storytelling, with a couple of cutscenes at most. This is all about taking that short synopsis and then focusing purely on the gameplay. Gameplay wise, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is a beat 'em up. You can choose from an initial 5 playable characters being Scott, Kim Pine, Stephen Steele, Ramona or Wallace. You must then fight your way through 7 stages in either single or co-op mode, taking one of Ramona's exes on at the end of each stage. You begin with a quick attack performed by pressing Y and a strong attack assigned to the X button, although new moves and combos are available and we'll talk about those shortly. You also have the ability to run, jump and hop out of the way of enemy attacks. Your health is displayed via a set amount of heart points and these will deplete each time you get hit. The number of points lost for each attack will be displayed above your character's head, and by the same token, the damage you inflict onto enemies will be displayed above theirs. When your number drops to 0, you lose a life unless you have any gut points available, and if you do, these will instead be converted into health points. Gut points do not only serve this purpose though, as you can also use them to perform a variety of special moves. Defeated enemies will drop money, and you can also find portals to the subspace highway hidden within levels. These contain floating piggy banks which will give you even more cash. This money can be spent in the numerous shops that you will encounter, much like in the Kunio-kun games of old, and from here you can buy a variety of food or items that will increase your base stats of strength, how hard you can hit, defense, meaning that you will take less damage, speed, increasing the speed at which you move and hit, and willpower, which increases the max number of gut points you can have. It doesn't tell you which of your stats each item will boost until after you've purchased it, which can be a little annoying, and I do wish it would show you this information even if it was only after you had bought an item for the first time. Food items will also replenish heart points and gut points, and as well as eating them there and then, you can also order some of them to go, meaning they will take effect when you run out of heart points later. This will be needed as should you lose all of your lives within a level, you will be taken back to the level select screen and will have to try the level again. As well as this minor RPG or character stat building element, you will also level up by gaining experience points when defeating enemies. This is how you will unlock the new moves that I mentioned earlier, and there are also combos to learn, plus leveling up helps to increase your max heart and gut point number. The fighting feels very fluid, with punches and kicks landing with a nice consistency that allows the game to flow at a good pace, and the extra moves that you learn definitely help to keep this flow going. The action really does get quite frenetic, and it feels fantastic when you have a huge group of enemies on screen, bolting between them trying to stay alive. The running and hopping does feel a little stiff at times, and whilst it's never a huge issue, there are a few platforming sections that will call for you to take a running jump. The natural walking speed to begin with is also a bit sluggish, although this of course is one of the stats that you can increase as you play. As I alluded to briefly earlier, you can play the story mode via 2 to 4 player co-op, both locally or online, and this just increases the intensity further still with even more enemies on screen. It's one of the best modern beat 'em ups for recreating the feeling of the insane number of enemies that would be on screen when playing an arcade game with friends back in the day. As far as I can see, there is no way for additional players to sign in and keep the progress they make in terms of leveling up a character for their own save file, so just bear that in mind, that this wasn't a problem for me in my couch co-op sessions. Online, as I said, is available, although you do need to sign up to a Ubisoft account, which seems wholly unnecessary. Surely owning a Nintendo Online subscription should be enough. Anyway, I digress. There are also a few other game modes included, some of which were DLC in the original version, but both DLC packs that released back then are included here as standard. These game modes are Boss Rush, Survival Horror, Battle Royale and Dodgeball. These are okay, giving a competitive option if you do not want to play in co-op, and the survival horror mode was quite fun in 2-player, but if the game was on for me, I'd rather just play the story mode. Gameplay is fantastically manic and really gets the adrenaline pumping. The stat building and leveling system only add to this, as do the great boss battles, and it gets 18 out of 20. Controls are simple and you are given a lot of additional moves and combos to perform. Barring that slight and occasional stickiness when running and hopping, they do everything you need them to do, and they score 17 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World adopts a pixel art style with the sprites created by Paul Robertson. An original creator of the characters, Bryan Lee O'Malley, was consulted in regard to the style and flow of the game, as well as doing the initial sketches for what became certain cutscenes and set pieces. The original graphic novels took inspiration from shonen manga, and the art style used in the game is quite similar to that used in the graphic novels, but perhaps a more caricatured or chibi version. The source material is also used very well in more implicit ways too. For example, the short cutscene before the third boss battle that implies Ramona's ex is cheating on his new girlfriend too, and the consequences that has on the fight, plus how the same character uses vegan power during the climax of that battle before being stopped by the vegan police. If you haven't seen the film or read the books, you don't lose a huge amount, but they are clever and subtle nods to those that have. In terms of performance, things run very well, even when there are a host of enemies on the screen, and the same applies to handheld mode. I had absolutely no issues at all whilst playing. Audio wise, the soundtrack was provided by chiptune band Anamanaguchi, if I've said that right, and is of a very high standard. Each stage has its own theme, sometimes changing mid-stage to signify a new environment or set piece, and the bosses all have their own theme too. It's high octane, high action, and gets the blood pumping for the battles ahead. Visuals fly the flag for pixel art and show just how stunning it can look when used correctly. They score 18 out of 20. In much the same fashion, the chiptune music is sublime, making what is old feel fresh and new, and it scores 17 out of 20. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, complete edition, costs £11.99, €14.99, $14.99 or $22 Australian dollars 95. It will take up 1 GB of your system's storage. For this price you are getting 7 stages that will take most people anywhere between 4 to 8 hours to complete, but this is all dependent on your skill level of course. As well as this you have the minigames and the co-op mode with local or online play, which may tempt some people into replaying levels or attempting the whole game over again. A physical version has been announced, albeit via limited run games rather than a standard retail release, which is unfortunate considering the game is from such a big company as Ubisoft. For me there's only 1, maybe 2 beat 'em ups on the Switch that I could say I like more than this one, and to be fair, they are both more expensive. In terms of pound for pound value, there's not much that can touch this, and value scores 18 out of 20. To conclude, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was a fantastic game when it released back in 2010, and it holds up brilliantly just over 10 years later. In fact, holds up doesn't do it justice at all. It's still better than most beat 'em ups that have released in the 10 years since, and is easily up there with some of the best in the genre. It manages to strike a balance between an authentic arcade experience in terms of difficulty and the number of enemies thrown at you, with elements that console beat 'em ups introduced over the years, such as leveling and stat growth. Then it packages the whole thing in a vibrant and colourful world, which is a joy to play through. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, complete edition, gets a SwitchUp score of 88%. Thank you everybody for watching, I hope you enjoyed that review. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, stay safe, and until next time, happy gaming.